Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Elgato Key Light Mini. This is an unboxing and review video where I'm going to be talking to you about what this tiny little light is like to use and comparing it with some other things, including the Key Light Air, and showing you off the various different controls and functionality of this key light. Now this is obviously a little tiny key light that's designed for creators and has a number of different use cases and ways to use it, applications in which you can use it, and highlights to it. Obviously being an Elgato product, for example, it's Stream Deck controllable from your phone, controllable from your PC, and more. It also has a number of interesting specs to it and offers diffused lighting that's comfortable. One of the things that's interesting about this is it's not wired as standard, it's actually battery powered. So it comes with a 4000 milliamp battery, which they say will last up to 4 hours at 50% brightness. During my use with it set to a bit brighter than that, I found that you could actually get a good couple of hours out of it before it needs charging, which is no bad thing. And obviously you could use it while plugged in as well, which is another bonus. Also includes this fast charging USB-C cable in the box and nothing else. And that was one of the things that I was struck by immediately, is the complete lack of anything to mount it with. So there's no bracket to put it on your monitor, there's no anything to put it anywhere. You just have the light and the charging cable. Naturally, as with all things nowadays, you don't even get a power brick to plug it into the wall with, so some minor grumps about this light to start with, but the rest of this video is going to be mostly complimentary because it is a wonderful little bit of kit. You can see a very nice, good quality finish on the back. It's nice and solidly built and surprisingly bright. Now it's obviously going to be difficult to do it justice in terms of the brightness that it offers, but I will be showing you some clips later on in a darkened room and various use cases, so stick with me to the end to see me using it, for example, to do a talking head piece to the camera, or at least what that would look like, and also using it on a camera to capture footage as I normally would with close-up shots of various products. Now one of the things that's interesting is it is magnetic, so it will stick to any metal surface that you happen to have in your room. Here I'm using one of my disc plates. I wouldn't necessarily do this, but it is an option. You can also perhaps mount it to your PC, although I wouldn't recommend sticking magnets onto your computer. That's not obviously a sensible thing to do. It's okay here probably because it's only just near the front of the fans and obviously through the grill, but it could interfere with other bits of hardware, so not recommended. But if you happen to have any bits of metal in the room that are conveniently located, then that's handy. Obviously also because it's small enough, you can just use it holding it in your hand. You could just put it onto the desk. I have been using something similar to this for a while now, Falcon Eyes F7 video light, which is a similar portable softbox style light, and I'm going to do a versus video to compare the two, but this is very similar in terms of the size and what it offers. Now it can go up to 800 lumens and it has a color range of 2900 to 7000 Kelvin, so I'll show you some of that a bit later on. On the underside you will find there is a thread mounting, so you can mount it on tripods and other things if you happen to have one. Here's a tiny little Manfrotto one that I happen to have to hand just to demonstrate that. Obviously this sort of tripod is interesting use case where you could potentially get it low on the desk, so if you're doing something like I do generally with unboxing things, this is actually quite a good option because you can put it low on the desk, have the brightness set quite low, put it near, just give some accent lighting or highlight lighting to the things that you're unboxing, the focus of the video. But there are other options. You obviously could mount it on a bigger tripod. You could get a mounting arm from Elgato to mount it to, and there are plenty of different options there. So it's a shame that it doesn't come with any sort of mounting bracket or stand out of the box, but at least you have the options to change it. Now when you press and hold that power button you can turn it on. You'll also see it has a Wi-Fi light that flashes, so there are instructions on how to do this, essentially just pressing and holding the button and then it would put it into pairing mode. You can then find the Elgato Control Centre app and download that and install it on your phone if you've not already got it installed, which I have, and then obviously go into the settings there and link a new accessory. I've skipped some of the steps. It does take a couple of minutes to do this. You do need to obviously do things like going through and connecting it to your Wi-Fi, but the end process adds in as another accessory in here, and then you can remotely control the power of it without having to touch the buttons, and I'll show you why that's important in a minute, because there are some onboard controls in terms of brightness and color range adjustment which you can use, but it's much better to use a remote control such as your phone or your PC. You can see that you can easily turn it on and off here and then adjust the brightness and the color temperature as well quite easily with a slider. It's not necessarily easy to see here, but it is possible to see the color temperature that you're adjusting. When you adjust that slider, you do get a little indicator to let you know what Kelvin you're at. This is useful because you can obviously then use the white balance on your camera and set it to the same Kelvin level so that you then have a good accurate representation of color in the real world. But for standard use, let's just say you're putting it to be a key light for your face, then you might obviously be able to adjust the warmth of that just to improve the look of it. So here's a shot of it in a dark room. You can see a size comparison next to the Key Light Air on the left there, which is obviously mounted on its own separate stand. I have the Key Light Mini on what is essentially a small tripod that was actually purchased with my Ronin S, which I bought a while back, and it's a smallish stand, but actually works out quite well because it sits behind the monitor quite nicely here. So you can use it as a key light to light up your face. On the right hand side, if you're curious, is the Logitech Litra Glow, which I'm going to be doing a video on separately. That's quite a different thing. But again, you can see that you can control the lighting in here. Now, apologies for some of what looks like warping on the two lights in the background. That's my camera's autofocus. It's not the light themselves. They don't do that weird sort of wobbly effect. But you can see that you can control the Key Light Mini alongside the Key Light Air and link those accessories so the lighting and temperatures also change. Now, in Windows, it's also possible to control the lights using Elgato's Control Centre software, and obviously this is located in the task manager, and you can see it down here. It will not only let you know how much battery life it's got on there, but you can also adjust the brightness and lighting settings. Again, you can link the accessories as well, so if you're combining it with the other things like my two Key Light Airs here, you can see when you drag the slider that adjusts the brightness of all of them. So it's nice to be able to have all this functionality in one place. Being an Elgato product, it will also work with Elgato Stream Deck, so you can just get the control center settings in here, and then you can put brightness settings in really easily and drop them in here. These sorts of things are very useful because it gives you a bit more accurate and logical controls for the light remotely, and you can set specific things. So obviously putting a slider on your phone and trying to get that in the right place to say 50% accurately is quite difficult, but if you have a button you can press, that makes life a lot easier. Now here's an option if you want to mount it on your camera. I've bought a small rig cold shoe mount which has a small ball head on top of it, and this is from Small Rig, and they have some great stuff. This is obviously an extra purchase, but I will link in the description so you can see what to buy. And this will work perfectly with most digital cameras. If you've got a mount on top that will allow for cold shoe mounting, which you should have, or if you purchase one of Small Rig's camera rigs, which are very nice by the way, you can then put this on your camera and mount it in a convenient way. So you can see that I'm just popping it on top of the camera here, which is one potential option. Usually you might mount a microphone up here, which is what I do on most of my cameras. But if you look at Small Rig's big sort of camera brackets, you can see that you'll have the option to mount them on the side perhaps. As I said, there are many different options in terms of mounting. Here you can see what the light looks like in the room. Now, I don't have any other lights on apart from the main light above my head, which isn't particularly bright. It doesn't do a good job of lighting the room, but you can see some of that on top of my head. But you can see the lighting that this tiny little light offers up in terms of the view that you'll get if you're using it on the camera to then light up your own face. Obviously some reflections on my glasses, but it is a diffused light, and I have actually used it for a long time while streaming and found that it doesn't affect my vision. It's not particularly obnoxious. It's well diffused and it's edge lit. I'm going to leave all the specifications in the description and the other features, but it's edge lit in a way that diffuses the light in a nice way so it's not completely overpowering your eyes. Now obviously with it top mounted on top of a camera, you can use that to your advantage to light up situations. So as I said earlier, usually obviously I'm unboxing things, I'm getting clips, close-up clips of products, and I want a good lighting, especially when using a macro lens. So a good lighting is really important. And the fact that you can have this light close is really diffused, and obviously you can adjust the brightness and the color temperature, makes it very appealing for this sort of use. So here you can see barely any other lights in the room apart from some backlighting, but you can see some of the diffused lighting on the mouse itself, so you'll see a slight reflection there. But what it's doing is a really good job of lighting up the desk and the surroundings. I have it on quite a high setting, so you could put it lower, and obviously setting it off to the side might be more beneficial if you have something that's particularly reflective, but it has done actually a really good job of this, and I have actually used my Falcon Eyes light in this sort of method in the past, so it is worth considering if you're a creator that wants some extra lighting and don't want to spend the earth. Now I just want to quickly demonstrate one of the problems with the hardware controls. So you can adjust the brightness on the light itself, but if you want to switch to color temperature, you have to push that wheel in, and then the light will flash to let you know it's changed between brightness and color temperature modes. If you're in the middle of filming, you don't want to do this because then you have this flashing light on the camera, which is obviously not ideal. That is why it's preferable to use the remote control settings, because then you don't have that option. Hopefully you found this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. I'm going to do some comparison videos with this in the near future, including against the Falcon Eyes light that I was talking about earlier. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already. And if you've made it to this far in the video, I really appreciate you. Hit that like button, and thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.